Let's get ready to rumble!
Sports Extra is bringing you the hottest sports updates starting now in 3, 2, 1. What is good, everybody? Welcome in to your favorite sports talk show, Sports Extra. I'm your host, Coby Clark, alongside my other host, Joseph the Lawn Moore.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We here with it.
Hey, Joe, man. We got a lot of stuff to talk about today. A great weekend for one of the Indiana State basketball teams.
Yeah.
And the other one, not so much. We have an interesting topic of choice on hand as the Indianapolis Colts have narrowed down 7 top candidates for their head coaching position. We'll talk about those 7 positions or head coaching vacancies, who is on that list, and we'll talk about who is going to be, probably the best fit in our opinion.
Word.
And then some interesting breaking news that happened just yesterday for the Indiana Pacers and the Memphis Grizzlies. I don't know if you heard.
Yes.
That's the one thing I want to talk about and dive into a little bit. But before we get into any of that, Joe, you know what I'm going to say. How are you?
I'm not going to lie. I woke up with a sore throat.
That's not good.
Progressively got worse.
What are you doing here?
And I've been toughing it out for the most part.
The grind don't stop.
Exactly. Then I come into the station, and everybody talking about so and so is sick. So and so is not here because he's not feeling well. And now I'm just like, dang, there's no way.
We try to keep a clean environment here.
Exactly. So hopefully it's just a sore throat. And I was doing a lot of yelling yesterday with the Kyrie Irving news. So hopefully it's just that.
Man,
that's
gonna be a great topic to discuss on our other talk show, our podcast, Sports Extra Uncut, where you can listen live every Tuesday, 2:30 to 3:30 p.m. We'll be live talking about that. Super Bowl coming around the corner this Sunday, 6 days away. The Kansas City Chiefs and the Philadelphia Eagles.
My goodness, we're already here, and then it's going to be months without football. But
I don't want to live in a world like that, but unfortunately, I have to.
It happens every year, and it's so sad every time.
What is it like? It's about 5 months of football in season, and then 7 months of off season plus training camps and draft.
I think so. That sounds about right.
Free agency.
That's 12. Yeah,
it's something like that. It's not split halfway down the middle, unfortunately.
Hey, but I mean, they have what is it? The AFL and
it's XFL and
the American something Alliance.
Why can't I see it? I've seen the commercials. Yeah. I see it in my head right now.
Exactly, me too.
I think Fox carries a few of them.
Word. So, I mean, at least we have some, springtime action and stuff. I've always been a super big proponent of, spring ball and, having kind of a D-League or G-League for, the NFL and stuff.
That's what the XFL's supposed to try to be, right?
It was supposed to try to be and stuff like that. And then, obviously didn't really, with the rules they had were ridiculous. But hopefully, again, with those type of leagues, it's always about the financial stipulations around it. So, hopefully we can get it going that way that can, set off my hunger a little bit for, actual NFL football. So
just a little bit.
For sure.
Hey, football might be going away for a little bit, but we got baseball coming up. We're still in season for basketball. Trade deadline this Thursday.
Yes, sir.
Ooh, a lot to be discussed about in the world of sports. Joseph, let's get underway talking about our local team, the Indiana State Sycamores. We're still in basketball season. The March Madness coming away. It's almost here, man. About 3 or 4 weeks until we finally get that final 64 teams. Hopefully one of them happens to be, here from Terre Haute, Indiana, in the Roll Trees, the blue Indiana State men's team, and hopefully the women's. It's a long shot for the women's, unfortunately, but the men, they're pretty, they're seasoning up, they're sizing up for a good year.
Oh yeah, they're definitely in the mix. They've just been playing of recently. Again,
Absolutely.
It was looking a little rough there for a long time. It felt like, but we're a little bit back on track for sure.
Joe, I'm gonna let you pick out which one. Do you want to go with the bad news first, or do you want the good news? Do you want the women's or the men's?
You know what? I need to get my energy straight for this episode.
I feel that.
So let's just bring the energy and, with the team that's really bringing the energy. And let's go into some ISU men's, man.
Absolutely. Both the women's and the men's team were in action this past weekend. Men's on Saturday, women on Sunday. We'll talk about the women in just a little bit.
Yep.
As the men, what a game. Joseph, you had the honor and privilege to call this game with our very own Braden Taylor from Sycamore Video. Shout out to him. He did a great job for his first game in I believe 2 years.
Exactly. Really good job from him.
Shout out to you two carrying it down. Oh, man. It was just an insane game. We expected a lot out of Indiana State this game because, after the hiatus of wins that we didn't see from them as of late, they finally got a win a week ago. Came out of the gate on fire, hitting a historic record-breaking 19 single-game three-pointers against Murray State, who, unfortunately, I know you guys were talking about it. They just didn't live up to the expectations.
Yeah.
It was 99-56, 1 point shy of 100. I mean, come on, ISU. What are you doing? We need one more point.
Exactly.
Nah.
Stat pad just a little bit
We'll
more.
take the win, though. Huge game for Courvoisier McCulley. Huge game by Cameron Henry, finishing with 16. Avila, 15. A near double-double from Julian Larry. Saw him in the arena today. What's up? I just finally, it seems like, the growing pain has gone away from this team. And it seems like, we came in with the good. We got the bad out of the way, hopefully. And now we're starting to climb up that ladder of success.
You know what? Not to take any credit, right?
Okay.
However, I think I didn't do any of the calls for the games that we were losing now. And then immediately once I come back, bang, bang, 2 exciting games at the home end. I'm just saying.
Is Joe Moore the reason ISU has been winning these last couple of games?
Hey, listen, it's kind of like, you can't claim that I'm not Batman because, you never seen me and Batman in the same room. So I'm just saying, you never seen me and the ISU basketball team in the same arena and we not pull out that win. That's all I'm saying. So
only does.
Exactly. Only does around these parts. And so, it was just like, and first, I want to mention that this Murray State team was not a bad team.
No, absolutely.
You look at this score and you're like, okay, ISU must have been playing some scrubs. These guys were not scrubs. These guys had some guys. I mean, you have Brian Moore Jr., who, is really a lethal scorer. You have Jacoby Wood, who, is also, a very versatile type of guard. And then obviously Rob Perry, who averaged I think, 15 or 16 for the squad.
Not a bad team at all. I mean, that's why they're in the upper part of the top half of the good teams in the Missouri Valley Conference up to this point on the season.
They come from a really well-coached program with, decent recent history. And, again, they're just kind of finding their footing in this new conference when it comes to the Missouri Valley Conference.
Their first year in the Valley. Exactly.
So they're still trying to find their footing, but still they have some guys. And, just for them, because we were talking about it in the pregame, just for, ISU to pull this off, they really had to make sure they got off to a really good start. And, you would think okay, they made 19 threes, then, okay, the game plan was, just to, shoot on the squad because you're going to get open looks. That was not the game plan in the first half at all. No. I don't even really think it was the game plan in the second half.
I don't even think they had that, going through their mind even pregame.
Exactly. So, because, again, like we said, this is a really good, well-coached squad, and well-coached squad just don't give up, uncontested three-point shots like that, especially to the three-point shooters, which we have so many. And, again, it just felt like, this Murray State squad just kind of, had – I don't know, mental toughness issues. And I want to say that with the most respect that I can because, when you're down by a certain number of points, it's kind of, hard to have get up and go, get after it type of attitude. Yeah. But still, it just felt like, once they were down by 10, 12 points, their whole body language shifted, their attitudes shifted. They kind of came into this game I remember it was DJ Burns who was singing and dancing. Everybody was having a good time, and then the complete opposite, attitude. By the time they were down by a little bit, and again, credit to DJ Burns. He just felt like the only guy on that squad that wanted to kind of bring the energy and be all right, next play mentality. But it just felt just the body language bad. Even Brian Moore Jr., he was almost getting into it when the assistant coach on the sidelines after he kind of went out. So, it just felt that is the exact opposite you expect from a well-coached program like Murray State.
I agree.
And so, it was just so interesting just seeing that. I felt like it might have been a flaw in the game plan, and it might have just been a crazy shooting night that just resulted in this, but it just felt like once ISU was up by a decent amount, they just did not take their foot off the gas.
I think when you look at this team and how of a great impact, we already mentioned the top scorers from this one, how it was McCulley with 23, Larry, who almost had that double-double, Cam Henry and Avila. You kind of expect that kind of performance from those kind of guys who's like just either been in the program, who's been working hard, or have already came up this season and have had good or better games already up to this point. Like we already saw McCulley. I mean, he was named one of the I believe he was named to the freshman newcomer. It was the second MVC newcomer of the week honor. So his second on the season. So congratulations to him. He's just a baller. I love seeing the way he plays. And I feel like a couple of teams, or not teams, but names on this team that already, that they don't need to do the scoring. They don't need to take that load off of the other players because they can come in and do what they already do well. And that's either, passing, that's great defense, that's just rebounding. Like names, for example, that go under the radar, I feel, Mason Miller. I mean, you don't see this man play a whole lot, but when he does, he's lights out from three.
Yeah, and that's what's interesting because Coach made a comment about Mason Miller, and it was so fun. It was absolutely hilarious because on this, once we were up by like 30-something, and it was like, I don't know, like 4 or 5 minutes left to go on the clock.
In the first or second half?
Second half. So, like, it was pretty much over by that point. So they started to clear out the bench. Mason Miller pops on the scene.
Like, what?
And, he pops on the scene. And then
he doesn't get a whole lot of playing time.
He doesn't get a whole lot.
He's going to try and shine just like anyone should.
And Coach was saying, like, people give me heat for, Mason Miller playing him at certain times and stuff. But, these people aren't at the practices. Mason Miller can, lights out.
Exactly.
So,
I mean, they're D1 for a reason.
Exactly.
They're on this team to compete for a reason.
And really, I believe that's the biggest thing when it comes to shooters. Like, shooters have to see a shot, especially, if it's not their own, go down.
Yes.
And when you have, you have the starters who are coming out, who the starters had like 5 from McCulley. You had 2 threes from Cameron Henry. You had, 2 threes from Robbie Avila and so on. And 3 threes from Cooper Neese.
Exactly. I mean, that's what you expect, I feel, though.
Exactly. And so, like, you have all this momentum, energy in the home, and it's fantastic. Of course, your, shooter that's just kind of itching to get on the floor is going to go pop out. And it was just like, they did not want to guard Mason Miller because, again, like I said, like the body language was bad. They weren't getting back on their assignments and stuff like that. So one screen, Mason Miller's open, and then it's just bang, 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 3 of them things.
Now can I ask you this question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Do you really feel like this is a Indiana State game where they just flat out dominated and you expected this kind of outcome? Or is it just maybe we caught Murray State off guard and they just weren't ready for it? Because there's like 2 domino effects you could really look at it.
I mean, I think it's a combination of 2 things. I think it's Indiana State knowing that they wanted to make a statement going into this game.
Oh, and did they ever?
Statement.
Did they ever?
They wanted to let the Missouri Valley Conference know that they are still here, even though they had that skid of 5 games where they just kind of lost straight. And again, like I said, that mentality carried over. That 0-0 mentality, I feel like is so powerful in sports, especially basketball, because it's such a mental game.
Yes.
So, once you have that 0-0 mentality and you like the players that you're playing with, I feel like eventually you're just going to go back on a winning streak, especially if you have that type of squad, and Indiana State has that type of squad. So I think it was just Indiana State wanted to make a statement. And, of course, an off day by Murray State, it just felt like,
They just came out flat.
I don't know. It was weird.
Odd game from them because I've seen them in, action. I've been watching a couple of highlights from Murray State. All of the teams. I keep up with every team in the Valley because you just never know who at the end of the regular season are we going to be matched up with come the first round.
Word.
Murray State, they are well recognized. I mean, they've had a couple of, appearances in the tournament the last couple of years. I mean, I don't know about you if you know this guy or not, but Morant.
We're going to get into in a second too. Yep.
Didn't really think about that for good and bad things. But, I mean, Murray State is no slouch. They are in this conference for a reason. Yeah. And for some odd reason, Indiana State just decided this is the team we're going to make our statement on, and they just signed the check and gave it to them.
And really, this was another statement by Coach that, he's been with the program for 22 months, and 22 going on 23, and he.
Great job by him, absolutely.
Fantastic standout job by him. And he just kind of noted that the difference of the Holman Center from year 1 to year 2, and it's night and day. Of course, that partly has to do with, people like kind of coming out of COVID and everything, and then people kind of like getting adjusted with the new program with a new coach and stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot of factors into it.
But like also it's just the value of community in this squad and stuff. And like community is such a big thing, I feel like, this year for Indiana State. And because like, the Terre Haute area is really behind the squad.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? You have mini Robbie Avila. You know what I mean?
Shout out to him.
Exactly. So funny.
So great.
So great. And, you have him on the sideline dressing as him. And then you have, people in the fans, just cheering, shouting. And on pretty much every broadcast, you can always hear the fans right behind us.
Absolutely.
Screaming and shouting, just supporting their team to like, a very passionate extent.
And I feel like we don't get a whole lot of credit. Like the fans don't.
Yeah, they don't.
Because they play such a huge factor in win or losses.
Facts.
Fans are just, that unwarranted variable.
Yeah.
That the opposing team doesn't want to mess around with. Mm-hmm. And if you ever just engage with fans in just the little tiniest way, they will come back to bite. Yeah. And they will yell at you, and they will make sure you hear it. That's
perfect. That's exactly how I explained it, because it just felt like the energy from the crowd is so positive in the direction of the Sycamores, and so like oppressive when in terms of the opponent squad who just have to go against that.
Absolutely.
And just giving out some more flowers again. Julian Leary, coach was talking about how he had just a fantastic game. 5 for 5 from the field. The box score doesn't really stand out, but still, you had 11 points, 9 assists, a steal, low on the fouls,
Julian Leary
4 rebounds.
He's definitely that kind of player that he doesn't need the stat sheet to show what he means to a team.
And really, this is the perfect game for Julian Leary because of, he doesn't like go crazy on the box score in the point category, I should say. But still, he's such an offensive threat to where like he's going to get 9 assists for the squad.
Absolutely.
With, 11, almost a double-double in assists and points, and then still get a few rebounds. Still, honestly, amazing defense, even though it doesn't pop up in the box score a whole lot, but still just fantastic defense from him. Like he's just one of those players that is going to do all the little things for the squad.
Right.
That's going to just kind of stick everything together. He's going to be doing the dirty work. He's going to be getting on the floor. He's going to be, playing really good defense. He's going to be passing the ball very effectively, and he's going to be taking good high efficiency shots. So, again, that's fantastic. Cooper Neese, lights out, making winning plays. Robbie Avila was distributing, like, you know what I mean? It doesn't, again,
absolutely.
He's just so integral to this lineup, not just because of, his physical abilities, but also just, his IQ on the offensive side of the ball. Passing really well, making the right looks, taking the right shots, putting the ball on the ground at the right times. Rebounding the whole shebang. So just up and down this list, even like, person like Jason Kent who comes off the bench, Xavier Bledson. There were just so many guys that just just played amazingly. And, this is just some, game that's really special and really like gives, a team like ISU, amazing confidence.
And if you go back to when they previously met back on the 21st of January, Murray State, it was a home game, so they had their crowd into it. And they were, they kind of caught ISU at a wrong time because those 5 losses in a row, just let's be honest, the worst timing to ever have a 5-game losing streak is when you are just now getting into conference play.
Exactly.
All 5 losses during that stretch were against conference teams. To go back on what I just said, the teams that I believe, trying to go back in order, they lost to Southern Illinois, Missouri State, Bradley, Murray State, and then just a tough loss with 2 seconds remaining against Drake. And the majority of those were on the road, Missouri State, Murray State, and Drake. And the fact that the Drake and Missouri State game was only down by 2 points. Southern Illinois, it kind of got closer towards the end because, they knocked out free throws and all that. But all of these games were very winnable matchups. Yeah. And I think that's the bright light you got to take away. Sure, we didn't get the W. We took 5 L's in a row. But the fact that they kept fighting and that they proved that they could be in contention for the Missouri Valley Conference Championship and heading on to the tournament, that's got to bring a little bit of glimpse out of the, the darkness that was the 5-game losing streak.
Word. And one thing that I kind of taken away, just kind of looking back at the 5-game losing streak, was one, how interconnected this squad is, because it just feels like either they're all on or nobody's on.
That's
which is
very truthful.
Yeah, exactly. Whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, it just feels like, they just play that type of game. And two is, the only thing that ISU really lacks in like, a winning sense is they don't really have a guy that you can just kind of give the ball to, and that's going to be, you can really, really trust in him.
A lot of people expected that to be Nice, but now with the new players on this team, it's kind of merged over into Voss a little bit.
Yeah.
But sometimes, it takes more than just one guy.
Exactly. And then Voss, he's going to he's going to take and make some really, really tough shots.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? But, with that comes, slumps and stuff like we saw on the 5-game losing streak. And, we don't have really a guy that's going to, be a really good shot creator for himself. Obviously, Cameron Henry has some of those attributes, but Cameron Henry really is, takes really good looks when there's like a smaller defender against him. Cooper Neese, he's more of like a, system player. And I say that with the best, the highest regard, is just because, he's going to have to do all the stuff that, on the offensive side, that's going to be dealing with winning. Like he kind of has that like kind of LeBron mentality to where like he's just gonna make the right play. You know what I mean? Like he might not take the last shot, even though he knows that he can take and probably make the last shot.
Right.
But he's just always gonna make the right basketball play, and especially on offense. So and he's kind of like that. Julian Larry. Sometimes he's not really that offensive weapon in that terms. And then there's just no guy that you can just kind of give the rock to and say go, and then he's gonna force us to have a win. With defenses in the Missouri Valley Conference, which are our defenses in this conference are really good.
Yep.
They're going to clamp down on that pretty efficiently. So again, it's just going to be like a situation where looking forward, we're going to have to find somebody that we can rely on just a little bit more to create their own shots. But until then, we're just going to have to play, continue to play really, really, really good team basketball.
Let's take a little bit more of a preview approach on this last segment for the men's team before we get transition on to the women's. We have 6 more regular season games, but before you and I, Joseph, head on over to St. Louis and see these men's team in action where it all really matters. One loss and you're done. Mm-hmm. We have a Valparaiso team who is not doing the best on this season. They're 4-10 in the Valley. We beat them 68-50 last time. So a winnable game for sure right there. And it also helps when you don't have to travel as much. You're in the Holman Center. You got the crowd on your back right there. But then you're going on the road February 11th against Northern Iowa, who that was kind of the game where you and I called that is the game that really woke them up and got them out of that slump. And it's kind of hard because I would like to say maybe the Drake game woke them up because they had to fight. And I mean fight back in that one to even get that lead with like 20 seconds remaining before, a heartbreaking loss at the buzzer or before the buzzer. But still, it kind of helped them in the next game, which was Northern Iowa. Then you have UIC, who, same as Valparaiso, they're just, 2-12. They're not having a great year. They're not the best. They had a 20-point loss against us when we were at home. Hopefully the home crowd can help them. And then we have a pretty good matchup with Illinois State. I mean, it helps when, we got the tough teams out of the way.
Word.
And now, we're playing the latter half of the Valley, which is, Valparaiso, UIC, and Illinois State. That's at home on February 18th. We have a road matchup against Belmont, who sits pretty high on the Valley as of today. February 6th, they are 10-4. And the one thing about this Valley tournament is the scariest part is the records, because you have 4 teams who are 10-4, ISU who's sitting behind all of them at 9-5. Then you immediately go to 3, 8, and 6 teams, and then it kind of just falls down with that. And it actually helps with those 3 of those teams, coming, we're playing them here at the end of the regular season. And then, of course, the last matchup, February 26th, before the Arch Madness tournament, will be against Missouri State, which is just, the same record as Murray State, and we just beat them. So, winnable games, I can see them win. I really could see them winning the whole thing here before, heading on. And talk about momentum, man. That would be huge for this team.
I think that they're peaking at a really good time.
I couldn't imagine a better time.
Exactly, because, that was kind of a blessing in disguise, kind of, seeing those 5 losses. You have 5 lessons that you learn as a squad, and, you go through that, you kind of test yourself in terms of, mental toughness, in terms of basketball ability and like willingness to improve. And then, you have that, and then you have a couple of really, really good opponents going into the tournament.
Yep.
So you have just this recipe for success in the tournament because you're peaking at the right time, you're making some record-breaking games, and you're just going to have, 3 more home games. You're going to have that last home game before you go into the conference, which is good. And, you have a couple of people that you get to see again that you can look at again, just see what they got working on, see how good at you are at making adjustments and, responding to change with different lineups. So, again, I think this is just really good for Indiana State, and going forward, they have high hopes come tourney time.
We can only hope. We wish the men's team good luck. The remainder of the games will be here on the call for every home game that they have. And then, of course, we're traveling with them to St. Louis to take part in Arch Madness.
Yep.
All right, I don't mean to be the bummer, but now we have to talk about the women's, who unfortunately did not have the best of games on Sunday. A very, very tough outing by them. I mean, it's just very difficult, no matter which way you want to look at it, because we have the pieces that can definitely get us to that next level, but sometimes, some way, somehow, you really need them all to step up.
Mm-hmm.
You can't really just have one or two. You really have to have them all pretty, playing well. I mean, Chelsea Kane, who led the team in 14 points. And then, it's just a difficult matchup when you're doing that. I mean, they played Northern Iowa and the Lady Panthers. They lost by 40, 91-51 on the road. And they have 2 more road games coming up for them. Mm. Joe, my question to you is, what are you expecting out of this ISU team before they head on over to Moline, Illinois, for Hoops in the Hardland? Do you see a whole lot of success coming their way? Can they manage to fix this?
I feel like they're going to continue on this kind of like streak of win a few, lose a few, kind of going into the tournament. There's just so much, there's not a whole lot of interconnectedness with the squad sometimes. It kind of feels like a U-turn, my turn thing where it's Anna McKendry, who has, a couple of really nice plays, and then they pass it off to Deljanay Williams, who has a couple of really nice games, and then, Chelsea Kane and, stuff like that. But it just doesn't feel like none of those games align with each other for a single one. Either it's, one player has a really good game and then, the rest have an okay game, or it's, everybody has an okay game and then one person just has, above average game.
Right.
So, again, and that's just really hard to tell. And, obviously that comes from, ability to play make, certain play calls and, stuff like that. But, there's no girl on the squad that's kind of like the ISU team where it's just like you can really just give it to her and she's going to force a win, on a consistent basis. Deljanay Williams is really good.
That would be the one. Maybe
exactly.
Her or Anna McKendry, one of the 2 names that can really build this team up into the winning column.
But it's just, it's hard. Again, like you're asking, a person to not only show out and, almost create their own shot practically on the offensive end, but also play really good defense. So, it's really hard to have a player like that. And it just doesn't feel sustainable if you ask, somebody on the squad to do that going into the tournament. And I just kind of feel like it's going to continue with that. Deljanay Williams, I pull out a few games here or there. I could see, Chelsea Kane has had like a couple of
She's done a pretty good job this year.
Yeah, exactly. A couple of really solid outings and stuff. So I would look to her. Anna McKendry, I would hope that she gets involved more and stays kind of in tune with her teammates to where like she can get the ball to them at the right times and the right moments and continue with that competitive nature. But, until they kind of put everything together, I just don't see the squad, coming out with, in the, big positive. I don't see them going into the negative, too much. But, I can't just see them going out in a, positive light going into tourney time. But I'm more than willing to be proven wrong with this squad.
Oh, absolutely. And I can't stress enough how much Missouri Valley games matter.
Yes.
I mean, conference games matter the most because you're going to run back into them twice, maybe, some teams 3 times a year. And when you're sitting at a 4-8 record in the Valley, I mean, the longest win streak, if you had to guess for this women's team on the season, like what would it be?
3?
Nope.
2?
2. And that's just
that
so complicated to build momentum. You cannot build momentum. You just have to have a very nice week of practice. You have to come out on fire. And sometimes we've seen the women, struggle a little bit in the beginning stages. Now, albeit when they struggle, sometimes the opposing team struggles as well.
Mm-hmm.
But, more than likely it's going to be, the other team getting, another leg up on them. So it just makes everything more difficult for them to, garner some sort of momentum. And there's momentum in games, and then there's momentum games. Games who after win. But right now we just haven't seen that, and it's going to be very hard with a very minimum amount of games left remaining on the year.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that I can say for the squad is just make sure that everybody plays together and plays to where it's not just because some people say there's 3 different players. There's a player that's going to worry about his stats or her stats in a sense. There's a person that's going to, care about, her stats but also wants to win. And, a person that's just going to care about winning. There needs to be more people that just care about winning with this squad. Don't worry about stats. Don't worry about, how you, look or perform. It's just, just worry about how you can do what you can do to win a game.
Right.
Win the game in front of you. Start with 0-0 on the clock and, get in the film room, see what we can do, and then continue to, try to build upon that, which, there has been, a couple of, girls who stepped up on the squad who've, tried to do that, but, it just doesn't feel like a really collective effort sometimes. I think there needs to be a few more that are just, you know what, let's just go out there and, make winning plays on a consistent basis. And I feel like if they do that, everybody's going to get involved and you can see some wins.
And it's just a struggle because when you expect, one thing, I feel like in any sense, really, in any matter of life, when you expect something that happens well, you expect that to happen again, which it could be probably the hardest to do ever in sports. When you expect someone who just had a breakout game, you want to see them, keep up the momentum and propel themselves and this team. Prime example being Bella Finnegan.
Word. Yeah, that's another thing. That's a positive light to say about this squad. Just Bella Finnegan has been playing really, really solid. She had 17 points. She was the leading scorer for the girls against Evansville.
All points in the second half.
Yeah, and so, again, like we said, there's girls that, could step up and then, do their thing. It just doesn't seem like, when that happens, everybody's playing together. You know what I mean?
I
agree. Just doesn't, like you said, second half, you turn up in the second half, but, there's the person that's, dominating the first half is probably going to be off in that second half.
Right.
It just doesn't feel like, whenever people are having a good game, it just doesn't align, even in the halves.
And when you go to against this team in particular, I mean, UNI, who's a 10-2 team in the Valley,
and really, really good squad, really good squad. I'm not even mad about that.
They're a pretty good team, and it's just heartbreaking to see. I would love for both teams to have success, but right now it's just looking like a far stretch to see what the women can pull out with a minimum amount of games coming up on their schedule. And hopefully, I would love to see them turn around, of course, but we have a Murray State team who, they sit pretty well in the conference. I mean, they're just a little bit better than ISU, same Valley record, so a winnable game right there.
Very winnable.
But the thing is, it's an away game, and Indiana State on the road, they're at 500. But Murray State, when they're at home, they're 4-2. So they have the advantage there once again. Belmont, that's a team who Indiana State has to – because 3 games in a row towards the end of the season, it brings a lot of stress. And they're, they're pretty much up there along with, the UNIs and the Illinois States. They're sitting at 4th. So the hardest part of their schedule is coming up, it feels like, and they just don't have a whole lot of time to turn around. Let's see. Let's hope. Because they still got plenty of time. And then we just have to see, names just such as Deljanae Williams show up. We've seen what Chelsea King can do. We know what Anna McHenry does. Now, can we get it all together? That's the main key to the ingredient. We need to see this all work out for them.
I can't agree more, Coby Clark.
Absolutely. So that was the fill-in on everything Indiana State sports for basketball for the men's and the women's. Just the men's, they seem, finally going up in that right direction.
Exactly.
And we hope to see the women follow up soon.
Indeed.
When we take a 30-second break, we will come back with your professional sports from the Indianapolis Colts news with the head coaching search and, of course, what just happened, breaking news between the Indiana Pacers and Memphis Grizzlies star Ja Morant. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back on Sports Extra. Coby Clark here alongside Joseph the Lawnmower. We are back for the second half of this Sports Extra talk show. Joe, man, let's talk about it. Indianapolis Colts. I know they give you a little bit of anxiety.
Anxiety is something that you can say.
A little bit. We're going to start out with the Colts, get into the Pacers news towards the end. But the Colts, man, something is just not sitting right with me. And I'll tell you what that is. I've never heard. Obviously, when a team does a head coaching search, they usually go through, a couple of virtual interviews, and then they bring in the next round that passes that round through management and ownership. They bring them in for in-person interviews. They have done that now, and now apparently they're wanting to do something I've never heard of, which is a third-round interview.
Yeah.
Third-round interview with 7 names, which is absurd to me because that's a lot of names.
That's a whole lot of names.
I mean, we've never heard of a third round, and people still make up the decision. Sometimes they don't even need a second round. Exactly.
And, this squad has to, this front office for this Colts crew, they have a really important decision to make.
Oh, tell me about that.
I mean, because for me, it feels like this team needs to hang their hat somewhere. They need it somewhere because it felt like the last couple of seasons, it just kind of felt like, oh, we have a pretty good defense and our offense okay.
They have a great talent roster.
Exactly. They have we have some guys on the offense that can carry, but we more focused on the defense and then blah blah blah.
This season was really injury riddled, I feel.
Exactly, that too. And so when you don't have that type of identity as a team, 1, 2, 3 injuries is it's hard for any team, granted, but still it's really hard when your team doesn't really have like a central calling, a common theme or tie between each of the players to where they can be like, okay, let's get after it. And so, they try to, hang it on defense, but, it just didn't feel like Frank Wright was that much of a defensive-minded, person that, or was able to make that type of defensive call. Yeah. So it just, what I feel like this crew should do is just pick a direction and just go after it. And honestly, if I'm going to be, keep it 100, I feel like this squad should go more in the offensive approach.
Even though that's what they just had, you still feel confident with the offensive approach as a coach?
I don't really even think it's the the coaching that was really the problem.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna lie.
I agree.
I just feel like it's the front office. They just they just be doing stuff. You know what I mean? They just kind of have like a dartboard somewhere, and they just kind of like have a bunch of decisions. And they just kind of throw it. You know what I mean? Like they just have a little circle like a roulette wheel, and then just have the chicken just go out and just just pick whatever.
It's kind of like that meme of the orange dog sitting in the kitchen with the fire around his house.
Yeah, exactly.
This is fine.
This is fine. We're good. You know what I mean?
This is all good.
So it just kind of felt like that squad. So I don't really feel like it's a coaching thing, but I do have a little bit of a positive light on the third round just because it just feels like if they're having this hard of a decision, that means that there's a decent amount of really good candidates.
Well, let me talk about it.
Talk to me.
We got 7 candidates right here that updated wise now just yesterday, still updated today, where there's a couple of recognizable names here that I believe you, myself, and Colts fans alike either have a very positive light on, negative light, or just don't know a whole lot about them yet.
Yeah.
Philadelphia Eagles offensive coordinator Shane Steichen. He is the kind of guy that I feel that this is the team. This is where he needs to go, and I think this is the choice the Colts have to make. Maybe they're going for a third round because they're in the Super Bowl. Maybe that's the whole reason. Maybe if the Eagles got eliminated last week, we'd already have head coaching news with Shane Steichen, who has turned Jalen Hurts into an MVP candidate before he got injured towards the end of the season. I mean, this running game, they've really turned that running game up as well down in Philly. I mean,
yeah, exactly. You're doing that with Miles Sanders. Imagine what you can do with Jonathan Taylor.
Exactly. I mean, Miles Sanders, he was kind of known like a fumble lord, sort of speak, and now he's really turned
fumble lord. I'm using that.
That's a good name.
I love that.
I mean, he's just been struggling, and he's really had his best year up to this point. Now, whether it be working on his game or the help of coach, I like to think it's both.
Yeah.
And then when you go over into the defensive side of things, the Los Angeles Rams defensive coordinator Raheem Morris, where a lot of people were talking about him, being a head coaching position candidate for a lot of other teams. He just so happens to still be on this list. I feel like this might be another good choice if you don't want to go the offensive route, but I think the Colts kind of just want to go with Steichen. But Morris would never, ever be a wrong guy pick.
Exactly. I feel like you can't go too wrong with a pick like Raheem Morris. I don't think that's a pick that you really fumble with. But the question is, what's the ceiling of, a roster that's, kind of constructed around the coaching of Raheem Morris.
Right.
I feel like there's a ceiling, but I feel like, what is it called? Like, middle ceiling, pretty high floor to where, that I feel like that, that's how I would wrap up this type of hire.
If you want to go, now we go into another guy who I think is another good name. Probably maybe even just a little bit more above Raheem Morris, if you want to look at it. And he does a few more things better than Shane, in a sense, with his offense, and that's Cincinnati Bengals offensive coordinator Brian Callahan. I mean, one of the most fun offenses you could watch in 2023 football was the Cincinnati Bengals, and how, they just didn't have a great season. Some people were writing them off to begin the year, but then they had that long winning streak coming into the playoffs.
Facts.
Unfortunately, didn't end the way they wanted, but he is a guy that Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and a lot of other names on that offense, Joe Mixon, just to name a few, should be thanking for the opportunity
100%.
Because he has just really turned up Cincinnati football in a way we haven't seen in probably since maybe the Andy Dalton days in the 2010s, which they would just get first round bounce.
Underrated.
This might be an underrated hire if they want to go with it. I don't think it's a wrong choice at all.
I feel like it could be. The reason I feel like it could be is because it feels like Brian Callahan has to have a QB to really know. You know what I mean? Like,
and
this franchise is
when you have
aware.
a top 5 pick.
Exactly.
That you can make that happen.
But I feel like what he has is very QB specific. You know what I mean?
I
and there's
understand that.
so many questions around the quarterback position for the Indianapolis Colts that it's just, I don't know. Because I feel like this could be a type of hire that's, high ceiling, you know what I mean,
yeah.
but low floor. So it's, a little bit risky just because you don't really know or, what you're going to get at the quarterback position. So Brian Callahan doesn't really know what he's working with.
I agree.
Because, ultimately whoever you draft or whoever you pick up in free agency hasn't put on a Colts uniform, more or less put on, any NFL uniform to that point. So again, that's kind of like so many questions around that. But again, Brian Callahan is very, very talented at what he does. So it just is, it might be a thing where they make this hire now and then just kind of trust that in the future, once he gets to know these players a little bit more, then it just kind of blows up in a good way for the Colts. So we're okay, he's our guy, we're confident with a pick, and now we're back in the playoffs and really give some people to work in the playoffs. So, it just kind of high floor, low floor, high ceiling with this pick. A little bit risky in my opinion.
But I feel like if you want to go with the young quarterback, because let's be honest, they're drafting a quarterback. Whether it be Young, Levis, or Stroud, it's going to be your guy for the foreseeable future.
100%.
And I think it makes all the sense in the world if you already have an offensive-minded guy coming in, he's a young head coach to be, hopefully, on the offensive end, whether it be Steichen or Callahan. They can grow with that quarterback. They can build a relationship. We have Steichen, who's at 37 years old. Callahan just a year older than him at 38. Raheem Morris, he's still seen as, kind of a young coach, but he's 46 years old.
Yeah.
So, depends on whichever age you look at, what's old and what's young. Because, I believe Sean McVay was the youngest head coach of all time at 32. Mm-hmm. And look what he did. He just won a Super Bowl a year ago.
Exactly.
So,
it's crazy how much a year can turn a program around. But, yeah, it's that's a good point. You're making some really good points, Coby Clark. So, again, I'm just not really, really just concerned. It just feels like if you want to go offensive head coach, I would want to have a guy. You know what I mean?
I think those are the best options.
Exactly. Though I agree. Honestly, I feel like these top 3 are the top 3. You know what I mean? These, we go down the list some more, but still, I feel like these top 3 are the top 3.
Yeah.
And so, Brian Callahan, really, really good, option to go to. If they pick this guy, I'm not even gonna be mad at it, to be honest. But it's just so many questions. But that's really what the Colts franchise is. So many questions, not really a clear direction. Just kind of all up in the air, just hoping something falls. Exactly. They just kind of throw a rock in the ocean, hopefully, it just, lands on some gold.
Heads or tails.
So
it lands sideways.
Exactly. Heads or sideways. Oh no, it might move over in a couple minutes. But again, I don't know. At this point, it's just kind of just pick, whoever you feel like, works with, your roster for the most part and where you want to go in the few years, and just, ride it out. But Again, I'm not sure.
For the top three, I believe Steichen and Callahan are the two, guaranteed winners that I think you cannot miss out on, and probably the ones you should not miss out on. Mm-hmm. Morris, I would say he's still somewhere in that category. The only thing I'm giving him slouch-wise is he's a defensive coordinator. So that's the only reason I would not go with him. But then when you look at a couple of more names here, we'll run through them as New York Giants defensive coordinator Wink Martindale. Mm-hmm. He's a little on the older age side, but he really turned around that Giants defense and make them, they weren't just known for a 2016 photo on a cruise ship. They won a playoff game.
Infamous.
And he turned them around, and he deserves all the credit a lot. Detroit Lions defensive coordinator Aaron Glenn, who shout out my New Orleans Saints, he was a former assistant defense on that side before he left with Dan Campbell to go coach the Detroit Lions, who the Lions almost made a push to the playoffs, and man, that would have been a lot of fun. Green Bay Packers special teams coordinator Rich Bisaccia, he took over for John Gruden whenever he left, and he did something with the Raiders, took them to the playoffs, and then he left, and they got him over to Green Bay now. And Green Bay didn't have the best of years, but still, a respected name, respected guy for what he's done. And then you go Colts interim head coach Jeff Saturday.
Okay, we can, enlist that. All right, let's keep pushing.
Joe, I'm going to have to ask you this, man.
Yeah.
Whether you want to hear it or not, it's probably Steichen, Callahan, Morris, and then Saturday. I really think that the Colts still want Jeff Saturday, and they're going to mess up.
I don't like that.
They better not.
I don't like that because I know you're right. You know what I mean? Just given what the Colts do, because what? It's so funny, again, Zach here at the station, shout out Zach, he, kind of mentioned that, if you look at Jeff Saturday, kind of coaching resume, it's like high school, loss, and then it's just NFL win. And it's just kind of what?
Where? What are we doing?
It's just
what does the NFL come to?
I just don't and then you fire the head. Oh, that just brings up so many emotions that I had. Because why would you fire the offensive coordinator and then fire the head coach? What? Oh my gosh, that just made me so mad just thinking about it again. And then you put Jeff Saturday. What? Oh, the Colts made me so mad, dude. Oh my goodness, I hate chaos sometimes, and it's just chaos with this Colts roster. But, again, you're probably right. He probably in the mix somewhere. I'm going to trust, I'm going to just have a good energy, hopefully not manifest anything to where, he's going to be the head coach of the Colts. But, yeah. I do think these are the top three guys, that you just mentioned. And, going forward, I'm going to just have a belief that it's one of these guys. And, I'm just going to be happy. I'm going to be happy that none of them are named Jeff Saturday going forward.
I really do believe. I said this in my WZIS Sports Recap today where – the decision is expected to be made soon. I really do believe if the Eagles would have lost, we'd already have our answer. I think
that's a good point. That's a very, very good point, yeah.
I think we're waiting on the Super Bowl to come over, a few days pass, and then I believe he will be named the head coach, Shane Steichen. I would not be upset with a Brian Callahan, but I think these are the two names, and I believe Steichen, if you're a betting man, that's the one you want to bet on because I think he's going to be the next Indianapolis Colts head coach.
Fair.
Let's hope. All we can hope for, not Jeff Saturday.
Yeah.
Let's turn now into the final topic of discussion here today, Joseph Moore.
Yeah.
John Morant and the Indiana Pacers. Two names that you don't really hear a whole lot because they only play twice a year, but something interesting transpired just before tip-off of their game against Cleveland yesterday, where they unfortunately lost 122-103. Mm-hmm. It is now being reported that friends of Memphis Grizzlies star John Morant, they allegedly aggressively confronted a couple of staff from the Indiana Pacers and, some people from the facility. He was in an SUV. Apparently there was a red laser being pointed at them, and Morant is expected to be in that SUV as the reports are now explaining it to us. Indiana did not take any what's the word I'm trying to legal matter, I guess you can say, police report. They only reported it to the NBA, who then underwent their own investigation, which is kind of absurd. How did you even find that out? How do people know that? Someone had to share it.
So it's just insane to me because that's what's always exciting about the NBA when it comes to reports and stuff like that. Whenever it comes out by the Atlantic, it's always something that has it's just something to it. It's always a deeper level of something.
In there
they do. They have some real insiders, right? And so they kind of released it, and this, initially, if this was anybody else, if there was some other like random, young star and stuff that we don't hear a lot about, when it comes to like off the court issues, I would probably be like, that's a little bit interesting, but we'll see, it could be a, coincidence, something like that. I am wholeheartedly believe that, John Morant was in that car, he was with people that he knew, and he didn't like, stop that action, from taking place.
For all we know, it could have been Ja, because they're saying the laser.
It could have been. I don't think so, but
no, we don't know that.
Would my mind be blown if it was?
Absolutely.
It wouldn't.
Think mine would. I couldn't imagine just seeing that if I was Memphis.
That's true.
What are you doing, my guy?
That's true.
But this all happened because of an occurrence during that game back on January 29th, where it was conversations between his family, his friends, and the Indiana Pacers team.
Exactly. And normally I'm a person that is kind of like, okay, it could be a two-sided affair. You don't really want to know what's happening. But considering what the Memphis Grizzlies have got into over the last, not even month or so, we're talking about last year or so, when in terms of what they've said and altercations that they got into. Again, I always like a team with mentality, but it just feels like, when it comes to John Morant saying these hollows are for anybody or whatever you said on Twitter, talking about, referencing it to guns and gun violence against the Warriors. It just kind of I'm just perplexed. Mm-hmm. Why? Because, John Morant, you are a millionaire, young star. You're a father. You have this huge fan base behind you. You have all the talent in the world. Why are you? Dad, isn't he? He is.
I forgot about that.
Why are you doing this? You know what I mean? What are you trying to gain from these activities? Do you not have a publicist that being like, okay, dog, let's not post that. Let's not do that.
Mr. Morant, can we not
post? Point a gun at a face, please. Just probably not a good idea. Just a thought,
Just something I threw out there.
And shout out to all the publicists out there, because some of these, athletes and celebrities been crazy recently. But again, it just what is happening? Why would you even do that? You know what I mean?
What's the
I don't know.
I understand what you're trying to do because of what happened during that game. But why jump to that?
It's a game. It is literally a game. Again, a game that we put so much blood, sweat, and tears into, not even from just a sports, perspective or athlete perspective, but a fan perspective, a media perspective. There are so many people who are passionate about this game. Why would you bring, you know what I mean? And again, I would be more surprised if this was kind of the first type of incidents that this happened, but this is the first incident in a long time. But of course, Gilbert Arenas was infamous for this.
Wow, that was, I don't even know if I was 5'6". I don't know.
Yeah, and then Gilbert Arenas, he's just kind of a weird cat in general. You got that right. Yeah, I remember Richard Jefferson, he was on the same college team as Gilbert Arenas, and he was talking about Gilbert Arenas, he didn't want to do the little ticker test, which is what all the pre-draftees kind of do, where they test their heart, on a treadmill, just see if everything's okay. He didn't want to do that because he didn't want to mess up his Chuck Taylors. He just,
You're kidding.
Exactly. And then they were reporting to all the NBA teams. That's why he got taken in the second round. Again, a lot of personal or what is it called? Personality issues. I just don't see John Morant having that type of personality issue. And
I agree.
And I'm concerned that he's surrounding himself with individuals.
That's what I'm saying, Joe.
Exactly.
I'm not trying to go to a game where I'm seeing, Jaw's dad just yelling at Shannon Sharp.
What?
I'm not here to see his friends on the court making. There is no way they should have anything to do with the game at play. I should be there to watch John Morant dunk on people and have a good time.
Exactly,
I should not be there to be in an
Listen.
altercation with his family and friends and whatever you want to call them.
Man, if we weren't on air, I would have so much more stuff to say. But it just feels like, don't be a wannabe thug, dog. Just make sure that you're a person that, daughter can be proud of. Don't pull we see so many young athletes do so many stupid stuff when they're right about to receive a bag, or they have their whole careers and whole just lives in front of them in general.
Yeah.
And then they just kind of just do stupid stuff. And, right when they're at the precipice of, just this enormous rise that's going to set up not only themselves, but family members, loved ones, et cetera,
it's like Miles Bridges.
Exactly. I was just about to mention Miles Bridges.
Where is Miles Bridges?
He about to get another contract, which is crazy.
From who?
From Charlotte. I've seen the reports, and if that happens,
kidding.
I'm going to be so mad. But again, it just feels like, just make sure that you have your head straight, your mental right. You want to have your chickens lined up, and make sure that you have, that type of future that you want. You know what I mean? You want to be thug, right? Wannabe thugs don't get paid, $200 million contracts.
No,
they don't. I'm gonna tell you. You can point to everybody in the NBA. Wannabe thugs don't do that. So if you want to be a 200 million, 200 plus million, because the cap just increases every year, type of max player who just sets a legacy up for not only his basketball career but for his family, his community, and where he's from. If you want to be that type of player, you can't be hanging around people that's going to be pointing, laser beams, quote unquote, at players after you have a dispute on the court.
Like what are we doing?
And shout out to the Pacers for one. Handled that very professionally.
They took the right road.
They took the right road. I'm glad law enforcement didn't get involved, because then it would have just got even more messy.
We would have known straight away.
And then there would have been a bunch of just conflicting reports too early. TMZ would have got involved.
And Jaws over here on Instagram and Twitter just like denying, like, nah, that's cap, like, nah, quit pretending, like, what is this?
That type of report doesn't come out of thin air. Like, you know what I mean? Like, what? You did something at the very least.
I don't know what you're talking about, sir.
Exactly. Like, oh my goodness, I can't imagine. But again, shout out to the Pacers, professional way of handling it. Going right to the NBA, being like, let's see what happened. Again, obviously they don't want to see, there's in the NBA too. They don't want to see their young stars get, involved in legal troubles like that.
I agree.
Again, I feel like a lot of other organizations would have handled that entirely differently. So again, shout out. So, again, I hope Ja Morant really asks questions about who he hangs around. I really hope he, ask questions, see what he has to gain from the people that he hangs around, see what type of person, father, athlete, just in general, just what impression you want to have on the world.
Yeah. And
then just move forward with that.
I agree.
If you want to be thug, be a wannabe thug. And you know what I mean? Just don't get paid, get banned out of the league,
do whatever you want, man.
Do whatever you want.
It's not my life.
Exactly. But again, if you want to make sure that you have that type of, foundation for the people around you, your loved ones, your child. Let's get our priorities straight.
Isn't Ja Morant's father named T. Morant?
T. Morant, yes.
Why? I know I'm not the only one, but it just boggles my mind. I just think that first thing that comes to my head, T. Grizzly. It's just
that's so fun. I didn't even that should be his nickname,
Grizzly.
by the way. That should be his definitely nickname, because T. Morant, son plays for the Grizzlies. Come on now.
It just makes so much sense.
What
doesn't make sense? This.
Hey, don't make a lick of sense. I don't know what's happening, but I'm so interested to see, I don't want to say the fallout, but I want to see what occurs as a result of this.
It's always great to still be a fan, but also work in the media side of things, because you kind of get two different ways of the approach. Like, oh wow, this is insane. Where now we have to really consider the downfall or uprise of someone like this. So let's just hope it all just goes away, and we don't want any of this ever to happen again.
Literally, hopefully, just a learning moment. Hopefully, it's a learning moment and go forward. Yes.
Joe, I believe it's closing time.
Man.
Closing time.
Have you ever closed at a restaurant?
Have I ever closed at a restaurant? I have. I was a delivery driver for Pizza Hut.
Oh, bang. Okay. That's nice. That's nice.
Shout out to the tips. Those were nice.
I always hated close. Close was awful. I hated when I got the schedule for the week and it was just like, okay, Joe, 5 to midnight. And I'm just like, I'm going to be here till 2:30.
Nice. Fun. Now I can't grind my player.
Yeah, exactly. I can't do that now.
Bro, I wish I still had, I've had a PS5 for almost a month now.
Yeah.
Have barely touched that thing.
I'm so mad. I got finesse, I got finesse. Because I'm over here thinking that, okay, this 2K shouldn't be too bad. It was terrible. And I paid $70.
Is it really that bad?
It is awful.
Thank the Lord. I only paid $35.
Such a dead game.
I've only played it. I was so hyped for my league.
I was too. And then it's just like, this is dumb.
Because what is that? What is NBA? What is it called? Today? NBA Today? I don't even know.
NBA, that's...
Game Day? I don't know.
If it's not anything that earns 2K... I love how this is the little after show. But, if it's
Sports
not...
Extra dark or something.
You know what I mean? Sports Extra at night. You know what I mean? And so, like, I love how whenever it's something that doesn't give 2K money, they do not care, because I'm a My NBA fan. So I love doing, like, simulations and then running. They had not updated that game in 5 years. They added a little era thing, which was kind of cool. But after that, I ultimately kind of want to see.
I just want to rebuild a team and win a championship.
Exactly.
I just love doing that ever since 2K16.
So fun, but they don't care. That's fun that's enriching for the players. That don't earn us money though. We gonna hike the VC prices up. That's what we're gonna do. Ridiculous.
Don't pay for game. Like, don't pay for money. Don't pay for fake money.
Don't pay
guys.
for money. Yeah, I swear, facts.
This isn't a Fortnite thing or a Madden thing or an EA thing. It's just good life.
Exactly. Life
advice.
You know what I mean? Don't spend $5,000 on Fortnite
just to play as Goku or
exactly.
You can go out there and be John Cena.
You want to be Deku or Naruto? Don't do it.
Joe, you're an anime guy. I tried being anime, but I just couldn't get into it.
I feel like there's always an anime for somebody and stuff. So if you ever want to be put on, I'm your man.
Absolutely.
But, again,
I don't know. We might
I'm not
talk
even
a little
mad
bit.
at you. Not even mad at you, man.
Great episode here today, Joe.
Oh, shout out Anime Podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Anime Podcast.
It's in the works. They haven't uploaded their first video yet.
Exactly.
That is Hannah, Zach, and Brendan.
Yeah, exactly. If and I'll probably make an appearance there, once or
you
twice.
You have to.
So again, just
One Piece.
Exactly.
One Piece.
Okay, now listen. Okay, watch One Piece, read One Piece. But you know what I mean.
Isn't there a One Piece movie coming out or something?
There is.
Or a video game or something?
One Piece. There's both. There's the One Piece video game, One Piece Odyssey.
You must
just
be in
came
heaven
out.
right now.
I am.
Have you played
really am. I haven't played it yet because I'm worrying about my chickens right now, and I haven't been able to play the game like that. So once I get my money straight, I'm probably gonna pick that joint up. And the One Piece movie on Netflix, I really hope they don't ruin it. The casting selection was really good, but
hey, get your money up, not your funny up.
Growl.
Remember that.
Yeah.
Joe, great episode here today. We got a lot discussed. Indiana State sports, men's and women's. Hopefully the men keep working on what they're doing right. Hopefully the women can figure it out soon.
Yeah.
The Colts come to a decision. Hire Shane Steichen or Brian Callahan. I say it's like 80-20, maybe 90-10. I'm going with Shane.
Right, honestly. Yep.
And then, John Morant, stop it. Get some help.
Stop it. Get some help. And One Piece.
Yeah. We didn't really talk about the Pacers and how they're doing.
I mean, they all right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They losing. They losing. They're not playing really, really great because, Tyrese Halliburton's just getting back. There's not really much to talk about.
They're still exciting,
to
say the least.
Fair.
Any more last thoughts before we get on out of here, Joe? Before we just head out and give everyone a great farewell.
Go Pacers.
Go Pacers. Before we get out, one more thing. Make sure you follow all of us on our social media at WZIS-FM on our YouTube. You can re-listen to this back at WZIS-FM. Sports is for the Twitter. We have everything coming your way. Whenever we have that first anime podcast episode come up, you'll be able to see it on our Instagram, on our Twitter. We just posted another TikTok.
Bangers.
We are blowing up here, and you can be a part of it too.
Come through.
Dreiser Hall, 3rd floor, 323. I think that's all I got, man.
Yep.
I hope everyone has a great rest of your week. Stay safe out there. Just enjoy what there is in life. Have a great, safe weekend with the Super Bowl. Just sports in general can bring a lot of love, hate, but at the end of the day, you'll love and respect it.
Yeah.
For Joseph the Lawnmower, I've been the Coby Clark. Until next time, everyone, we'll be right back here, same time, 6 to 7 p.m. on Mondays for Sports Extra, and on Tuesdays, tomorrow, 2:30 to 3:30 p.m., Sports Extra Uncut. We'll see you all next time, everybody.
Peace.